Let it go. Let it go. We can drop our heads and see it float.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Broadcasting from 23 degrees in
Amsterdam,
Amsterdam.
the hottest day of the year we
So
have.
far.
So far, we're on with Clara Naum. We're going to discuss a lot of things around forgiveness, especially the book that she wrote called The Real Meaning of the F Word. Not the word that you're thinking, Bambos, but another word that also starts with F.
How do you know I've got a dirty mind?
And what are we going to do that on?
A wonderful chaos.
Chaos.
I am waiting for the riots because the parks, I don't even feel there's COVID.
Yeah.
I know the numbers are going up, but the parks are in the streets.
The streets and the parks
insane.
are incredible. When I walk down Vondel Park today, like I see, it's surreal feeling. You see mounds and mounds of people piling into the center of the park, and then you see the police line. And as I walked in and out, there's first 5 cars, there's 6 cars, there's 7. So they're just building. So I'm wondering to myself, when does this thing explode? Like when do they bring out the water cannons? Because that's where we're headed tonight.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a water park and some water fun, then you go to Vondel Park.
Take your squirty gun.
You're going to see some crazy today. Yes, Bambos, forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
We've talked about this a lot on the show.
Yeah. I've learned a lot from you, actually, from the book, of course.
Yeah. And what did you learn, or what did you feel?
If you remember, I also wrote a post about my father, like he was really coming up as a vibration in me, like really vigorously.
Yeah.
And just acknowledging who and how he lived and recognizing there was nothing to forgive. Like he did what he needed to do and he was how he was. His behavior wasn't always something that resonated for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still a child, so I couldn't really communicate with him. And there was nothing to forgive.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took me a long time though, because of course it took me a long time to find that love for him.
Yeah.
And of course he's dead. So this acknowledgement comes after his death. But
yeah.
Yeah.
It's always easier to love them when they're gone. You can always see the good side as well. That's what I've noticed. Yeah.
Well, I can also talk about my mama, right? Again, there's no, I just love her for who she is, and she's alive.
Yeah.
just saying.
I want to make a joke, but I'm not going to. Okay. Well, I think it would be great to bring Clara on, unless there's someone else you had to go on.
No. Let's do it.
Okay. We bring on Clara.
Another wonderful being from
Hello.
Gino. Thank you, Gino.
Hello.
Thank you, Gino. Gino has brought us some wonderful people to the show. So we again acknowledge his contribution.
Yeah. It means he trusts you, right? He doesn't know me personally.
Yeah. From the university, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, associate professor. Anyone who wants to look him up, Gino Yu. He's doing fascinating work. Yes. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's just a pleasure to be here with you guys. It's just from Orange County, Southern California to Amsterdam. So
we can tell by your accent. Yes, we can tell you're fresh out of Orange County.
Yes, absolutely.
We met, I think, about it must have been 4 years ago when I was doing the last letter tour through the U.S.
Yeah, maybe more.
It may have been more.
You actually met.
We met. We never met in person. We've met as in we spoke on the phone.
Okay.
And when Clara and I spoke, it was like when you just have a phone call with someone and you just feel an immediate love and connection, and you don't need anything or no want anything, but you think we're going to connect sometimes in our lives just because there's this loving connection. So it just took us 4 or 5 years to find each other here.
Absolutely, yes.
And I mean, I've been following your work on Facebook and on Instagram, or more Facebook, because that's where the real posts go. And I've always thought it's so funny because it's almost like you're mostly like public in Spanish speaking places. So when I see you more like Spanish speaking TV in Argentina, or, you know, and less in Orange County.
Yes, absolutely. It's just some people say you're not a prophet in the place you live. But anyways, it's in different parts of the world, and I've been lucky enough to be invited to speak in different TV shows in Latin America, and that's the reason that you've been seeing that. But yes, it's just in both languages, or actually it's the language of love, right? It doesn't matter if we speak English or Spanish or any other language.
So for me, being with you, um, like you're really glowing. Like,
Thank you.
and my curiosity goes right to your childhood. Like, like where was your transformation? Because it feels, I'm projecting that there might have been a point in your life where you're like, okay, enough is enough, or something happened.
So
Where
you're
you,
saying, did you have a really shitty point in your life that you need to heal from that made you happy? Like what?
Actually, it's just I was a happy child, and I wanted
You're getting a lot of
to.
that lately, huh?
Yeah, aren't you? How does it feel, Bambos? You're digging, trying to find the dirt, and they're always saying, Bambos.
I said I'm projecting, by the way.
I know you're a nerd.
No, actually, it's just I think we all have some shitty moments in our lives. It's just the thing is, did I use those to go higher or to go lower? My life, I'm grateful that I had a beautiful life in a sense. It's just happy childhood, but I was always there for everyone. When I learned that it was important to be there for myself too, things changed. So some people have to go to dark places or the dark night of the soul in order to experience transformation. For me, was an evolution of the heart. Kind of just what is that I want to bring to the world? What is that I want to project into the world? For me, was always peace, love, but we have to take action on that. And yes, of course, the universe give us opportunities. Are you going to be working on this? So here you go. You have to learn. You have to experience. You cannot talk about forgiveness if you're not going to prove that you really, really worked on that and different kind of things. So answering your question, not just a shitty moment, maybe different shitty moments, but those didn't define my transformation, but really helped me on the evolution of my heart.
You mentioned one thing that I would like to. So you said that at some point you were giving away yourselves to others and not doing what was serving you.
At some point, yes.
And what did that look like? Who were you like before you did that, and what changed after you did that?
Okay, I was just there for others all the time. My belief system was being a good person. It's just helping, assisting, serving others. And I was the last person to be served by me, right?
Yeah.
So, and I was, this was a moment. I was a certified public accountant, was working in business, but doing psychology at the same time years ago here in Southern California.
Slow down a second.
Yeah.
Do you know how absurd that is?
Totally.
I'm a certified, but just know a certified public account is like the height of numbers. Like it's like, so you're studying numbers, and then at the same time you're studying the emotions that are driving behavior, right? It's just, it's fantastic.
It's totally, I wanted my brain to be working on both sides, so maybe that was the reason. There was something more. I needed more. What can I bring to the world? So I was doing spiritual psychology, my master's in spiritual psychology.
What does that mean? Because I read the word spiritual psychology and I didn't understand immediately what that would mean.
It's just being in touch with your human essence, with your soul, and seeing the human being as something bigger than your thoughts, your emotions, your soul.
Okay.
Being in touch with that essence. So it's psychology, and then I did my master's in spiritual psychology, and I was working on forgiveness at that point. I had this, I was called the forgiving one growing up. So for me, kind of, okay, I went through a lot of things and shitty things. Like you said, my husband experienced embezzlement from his former partner, tons of things. And I say, okay, it's just, I already forgave that. If this happens, or kind of bargaining with forgiveness, right? And of course, it's not about that. But forgiving ourselves, forgiving myself for whatever judgment I could have held inside of myself, that was a totally different story.
Can
So
you
that's
repeat that?
the moment. Yes.
Can you repeat
Repeat.
That sentence.
That sentence about forgiving yourself?
Forgiving ourselves.
Yeah.
In that case, I was saying forgiving myself for the judgments that I hold against myself. That was a totally different story. That meant being vulnerable about your perceived weaknesses, the judgments that you have made against yourself and others, and being kind of an open heart. Otherwise, like the picture that you have behind yourself is just that hard, and we can never reach that.
I'm touching it.
So, yes, you're touching that. In a sense, just to hold that. It's just, are we able to really face the hurt? Whatever that is. Could be painful childhood, could be trauma, abuse, or just something little. You walk on the street and someone just does something to you.
Yeah.
Little or
Was there
big.
something specific for you that was more loud as that you had to work through?
Forgiving myself,
Yeah.
yes, because I thought that I needed to be perfect. You know,
Oh.
it's just I need to be perfect. I'm not doing enough. I want to serve the world. What is that I can do or I'm doing in order to be a better person? So just getting into that sense of I am enough. What I'm doing is enough. It doesn't mean that forgiveness doesn't mean that you're going to let other people walk over you. It doesn't mean that you're not set boundaries, healthy boundaries. So for me, I needed to learn that. Forgiving myself for believing that serving the world meant I was last.
Yeah.
I had to put on the mask, the oxygen mask, like in the airplanes first, so I could continue serving others. So that was a big lesson for me. And I need to start forgiveness within myself, within my heart, and then things start coming to the surface. Small things from childhood, things that I judged, things regarding my brother, things regarding people who hurt me one way or the other.
Yeah.
I even, at some point, it's just I was very close to be victim of physical abuse. And I kept that inside of me because nothing happened. I didn't have to let that in the open.
Yeah.
So according to family values, you don't talk about those things. So I had to, okay, this happened to me. I was 5 and then I was 7. And I was proud of myself because I helped save the other girl that was with me at that moment. But I couldn't talk about that. So those kind of things that are stuck inside of you at certain point in your life, they start coming to the surface. And if you decide, okay, I'm here, I'm vulnerable, I want to heal, this is my desire, I'm open because I want to serve the world and I need to serve myself. Yeah. So I went to those places where there were hurt, wounds. So if we want to relate from the heart, not the wound, we need to be open to face the hurt and make eye contact so you can see that, feel that, and then work on releasing that energy.
Hmm.
Can I be very honest?
Yes.
Um, my body can feel what you're saying, but if you ask me to rationally explain it, what you've said, I can't. My mind can't grasp it, but my body feels it. And if I would say I'm 5 years old, and you would just give it to me in a very simple way of the essence of what you just shared, how would that look like?
What you experience is exactly that's the point, Bambas.
Hmm.
Because it's not, we don't forgive or experience these things with the mind.
It's an
With,
embodied.
yes.
Bravo.
So when we think something, we have knowledge about that. When it goes to the heart, it's wisdom. When we feel it with the body, it's an experience. So there's nothing that needs to be explained to that 5 year old, because the 5 year old is just feels that. And when the 5 year old feels that, it just becomes an experience.
Hmm.
And there's no judgment. There's just who you are,
Hmm.
the essence. When we experience that, we're close to our own divinity.
Hmm. I notice when you're talking, I know. Oh, I'm closing my eyes, but actually, I'm just taking you in. So
Mm.
I'm not bored, by the way.
Hmm.
I've noticed I close my eyes to just absorb you. It's really nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
And you
also,
can be bored also if you want.
Yeah.
I would tell you,
I'm
but
not going to judge you.
I'll forgive you, Babas.
Yes, it's just today is about forgiveness. So it's just, and it's not about forgiving you, by the
No.
way. It's forgiving the judgments
Hmm.
that we make about life, God, our family, our parents, our friends, about ourselves. So it's just about the judgments. That's
Yeah.
the reason it's different. My
there was
take is different on forgiveness.
Yeah.
there was a kind of twist that I learned from Andy, and correct me if I'm
Yeah.
right or wrong.
I was going to tell the story, but I've already told it 20 times on the show.
Um,
Okay, 21. It's just
well, in a way, when we say I forgive you, it there's a connotation that, oh, you did something wrong, so I'm going to forgive you. And in a way, taking the word forgiveness out of the equation and just being at peace with what happened without needing to forgive, then there's no right or wrong. Am I
So I can qualify. It would be
beautiful
nice
what
to
you
share.
just said.
It would be nice to share the story and then say how it's connected to what you
share
just
your
said.
story? It's your story, so you do it.
Basically, I hated my dad. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if I could have killed him and then hidden the fact I did it, then I would have done it. You know, that's the
Mm-hmm.
hatred I had. So I went through most of my life with that level of just the record in my head of I hate this man, I hate this man, all that. And then at some point I started to do my own work, and it even got to a point when he called me. I was in my work in my 30s, still trying to pretend like I was an important person, getting things done and achieving. And then he called, and I said to the secretary, "Send it to voicemail." Now he's in a psychiatric ward because he's created so many problems in his life that now he's needing to reconcile it. But if I was to speak with him, it would put me back for 6 months. He'd take my self-confidence away in a second. Because in some ways, it was like I would regress back to the child that needed
Mm-hmm.
validation that I didn't get, and then I'd just be hurt again. So to protect myself, I had to separate. But what happened was I said, okay, I'm going to now start to do my work independent of him. And in doing my work, there was a moment when my mentor and I were talking, and he said, Andy, after a lot of questions, the final question was, Andy, why did your dad do what he did? And then I stopped, and I always, when I tell these stories, I feel back into the moment,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't become a rationalized thing. And I said, he did it because he loved me.
Hmm.
And even now I feel how hard it is to share it, because there's such a beauty in that moment that it was the moment when I no longer looked at anything and what he did in terms of the action, but in terms of what his deeper desire was, which was actually to protect me. He was just scared. And
Wow. And also at that moment, and I'm feeling your feelings and your pain at that moment and your emotion.
yeah,
In a sense, you learned love
yeah, yeah,
experiencing that. So in a sense, it's a different image of love, what
yeah,
you learned. So by doing that, you were judging also the experience and
yeah.
you had that story. So yeah, wow.
And then,
Mm-hmm.
and then this was the weird thing that happened after that moment. So now that moment happens, and now all ideas of forgiveness are gone. He doesn't need to be forgiven. Like, so I'm now, for the next years, I'd meet people who knew me for all the years before, and they'd say, "Did you forgive your dad?" And I'd always think it was the weirdest question, because I'd be like, "I can't explain it to you. I didn't forgive him because I didn't need to forgive him."
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And that's the thing is, forgiveness is the tool to get to that place. So
Mhm.
if we can get to that place, that I would say that that's an experience of deep compassion.
Yeah,
It's just, it doesn't mean that you have to like what the other person did or didn't do. It's
yeah,
totally separate thing. But it's just either you get there, like when you're trying to open a door with a key and the door is stuck and you keep trying and you keep trying and you keep trying. So you need something in order to open the door. So
yeah,
what I've been doing is offering something to open the door to freedom,
yeah,
the key. But sometimes you go and you just try the key and the door opens.
yeah,
And you have this that I call spiritual orgasm.
yeah,
Okay? It's in a sense, you get to that place, it's just, it's higher. You cannot explain, like we were talking about that, Bamboos. In a sense, it's not about understanding. It's experience of the heart. It's deep compassion, deep acceptance.
hmm,
Again, when we go to that place, there's no right and wrong.
Mm.
I don't know if you like Rumi, but I love Rumi.
yeah. It's
I
the
love
best.
Rumi.
Yeah, and Rumi says there's a field, and feel that there's no right and wrong.
I'll meet you
Let's meet
there.
there. I meet you there.
Bravo.
Exactly. And sometimes we cannot go to that field because we are so stuck in the right and wrong, because we are hurt.
Yeah,
We want things to be different. We wanted our life, our spouse, our parents, something in our life to be different. And we are deeply hurt. So by acknowledging the hurt, we can work on forgiveness and do all the work. And I've been studying years and years and years, and I developed a process in order to get to that place. If you're able to get to that place by a deep spiritual experience, that for me is a spiritual experience, because once you are there, Andy, you can never go back.
Mm.
yeah,
You might experience hurt, but it's just a deep experience of love. It's just something poof,
yeah. And
awesome
that
up.
and people can't quite get. It's almost like a paradigm. If you live in one paradigm and you try to explain it to this paradigm, the first paradigm is trying to understand it from how how it understands the world, and it never
Absolutely.
works. You know, the same thing as the Bombos always laughs because I use Einstein quote: "A problem can't be solved in the context in which
Yes,
it's created." So it's the same issue. How do you solve forgiveness in the world where forgiveness isn't relevant?
exactly. Absolutely. So that's the reason that when I was doing that and studying about forgiveness and doing my own inner work and the spiritual psychology, I did the spiritual science and just kind of exploring everything in order to be in touch with the heart and being able to serve another human being, the world, from that place. And
Mhm.
it's just when we cannot get to that place, and nothing wrong with that because it's an experience, we need to acknowledge the hurt. And that's the reason that is the real meaning of the F word. It's just something happened, someone hurt us, we
Yeah,
did something that we are not proud of, we experience shame, resentment. So we have to go through the fucking process. We have to healthy, instead of trying to kill someone, exploding, just doing saying things. It's
Mm,
just going, acknowledging the pain. So we don't need to keep that inside because it's an energy.
yeah.
Forgiveness give us freedom because we can experience pure energy,
Yeah.
and we can use that energy, our loving energy, our loving essence, to create other things.
Mm,
So the fuck it process, that is the first step on the thrift process that I have researched and developed and I use with people, also in business, with conscious business. It's just, are we going to be defined by our failures, by our successes, by our hurts? So we have to experience that
yeah.
and then go through the full spectrum forgiveness. That
Yeah.
is forgiving everything and everyone, including ourselves. And as you said, Bamboos, maybe the ego needs to say, I forgive you. But when we get to the point of forgiving the judgments,
Mm.
it's not about forgiving you, but forgiving the judgments that I have created around the story
Yeah.
of what happened to me or to
And
others.
and I think in the book, when I was writing about the thing you're now describing, I would always say, I forgive myself for not being able to see you.
Which
Or
book was it? Which one of
it
the
was
two?
it both actually. Yeah. So
Beautiful,
yeah.
exactly. And that's because actually everything comes down. It's beautiful. I remember when you were doing that. So
Yeah.
writing that and
Yeah.
just and writing letters. I remember we
Yeah.
were speaking also and talking about people in prison.
Yeah, because I
Remember
wanted to
that?
go to the prison. I remember it was much harder than I ever expected to do a session in prison.
You
Yeah.
didn't do one, right?
No, I couldn't get in. Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah.
I just, as you know, I've been a volunteer inside of maximum security prisons for the last 12 years, being inside of the prison for 4 or 5 days, several times a year. So it's just bringing the concepts and principles of spiritual psychology,
Mm.
not religion at
Yeah,
all.
of
It's
course.
just being in touch with yourself, learning about emotional intelligence, and learning about compassion, forgiveness,
Mm,
personal responsibility.
Mm.
So what you said is just everything is based on self-forgiveness, actually.
yeah.
But if we do not have personal responsibility and accountability with ourselves, self-forgiveness doesn't work. And it's
Yeah.
always, I forgive myself for judging the world, this person, the
Yeah.
situation, myself as, or I forgive myself for buying to the misunderstanding that. And
Yeah.
again, and I keep repeating this, you don't have to like what happened.
Yeah, I think that's the problem sometimes in the paradigm, that first paradigm. There's an assumption often made that if I forgive it, I implicitly say it's okay. And it's like,
That's
and
the
it's like,
problem.
that's the problem. It's like, no, in forgiving it, you're not saying it's okay. You're just allowing yourself to be free of it. It's a very different thing.
It's
Yeah.
awakening to love. It's a
Yes.
gift you give to yourself in
Yeah.
order to experience what you experienced with your dad
Yeah. Exactly. And
or with any other situation. Mm-hmm.
It's funny because we did a show on Monday on our most embarrassing moments,
Uh-huh.
and during the show, I shared how I disturbed someone's men's group. Like this was how many years ago?
this would have been 2 or 3 years ago.
And
Bambos entered another person's group and he was difficult.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by difficult?
I was a nice way of saying he fucked up the other person's group.
Okay. How
thanks,
did you
Andy.
do that?
Oh, I had an idea of how it should be instead of,
Mm-hmm.
and back then I was really strong in my ideas,
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
and
Nice way to put it.
on Monday, when we talked about the most embarrassing moments,
mm,
that memory came up,
mm.
and I saw I was even feeling uncomfortable because I never took responsibility there. So I I think one day later I found him. I sent him an email, and I just apologized because I didn't go there in a loving way. I didn't meet the group where it was. I didn't see him and the space he was holding. I imposed my ideas and beliefs without checking in. And in that way, there was a lot of arrogance in my behavior. And I did say, I'm deeply sorry for how I behaved. And it was funny, as I was writing.
So can we slow down? I want to cry when I hear you speak right now, because as you speak, what I'm hearing is like one of the first times in our relationship where I see you embrace the state and not judge it.
Yeah.
Love it and be okay with what it was. And that I find to be like, that's grace. And I just wanted to share that because it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended that email because for a long time I blamed him internally, even if it was like 1%.
Mm,
And I was really surprised because I was writing. I ended it with "I love you," and I deeply mean that. I told him,
mm,
and he responded also very beautifully the next morning. And he said, I forgave you a long time ago." And he shared a little bit the impact it had,
mm,
and he said, "I let it go a long time ago." So I just replied, "I feel very grateful. Thank you." So what you spoke to of just releasing ourselves from past and moving through it, and yeah, just like I see also as I'm developing and growing, maybe it's also my age, as what Andy says, um, there might be moments, oh, I didn't take responsibility here, and I'm okay, I'm at peace with this, but it's good to do a check-in and make sure and give some love there, even if it's not received. And that's a little bit where I'm at right now.
That's beautiful, Bambos, and I can experience this moment of grace, as Andy said,
mm,
because when we release something, it's a step further to heal the world,
mm,
because it's not just for us. Even if we are doing that for us, and apologizing is part of taking responsibility without the expectation of what other person is going to say or do,
yeah.
even if they are not here. So otherwise we get stuck into there has to be communication. What you did was beautiful because you experience, okay, I wanted to do something and I screw up, whatever happened. So you took responsibility and you took action.
Mm,
So was forgiveness in action, releasing that energy,
Yeah.
and you experience the blessing of receiving that letter or that email, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that could have not happened. Maybe that person maybe could have hold a grudge, and that would have not defined your forgiveness or releasing moment, that energy. And just imagine that vibration, because we are energy, we are vibrating at different levels. When we are stuck in shame, resentment, we are vibrating at a lower level. So forgiveness or just getting into that place of compassion allow us to vibrate at a higher level.
yeah.
So, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Bamboos.
Yeah, thank you.
I remembered that some years ago I called all the women that I went out with in my life to apologize. And
I think I read that, or we talked
yeah,
about that, or it's like I
maybe.
read something.
But yeah, I actually said, I've been so blind to myself for so many years that I can't believe that each one of these people didn't have to suffer some consequence because of that. So, and they did, each one of them shared in their own way what it was that they had challenges with the Andy that wasn't at peace with himself. So it was
Mhm.
really a beautiful experience. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, so liberating, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, as you said, it's a peaceful experience. Actually, forgiveness is about peace. We cannot bring peace to the world if we do not give peace to ourselves. And I think it's just Demon
Mm.
Tutu says in Kosa language that forgiveness translates to I ask for peace.
Oh, yeah. I asked
Yes,
for
I
peace.
ask for peace. So, what are we doing? We want to change the world, at least some of us. and we want to bring peace, love to the world. We need to
Yeah.
start with us, and we need to be the peace in a chaotic world,
Yeah.
like a wonderful chaos. The name, I love the name. So
Mhm.
it's just so we can transform that chaos into a wonderful chaos.
Yeah.
So bringing peace with us.
We created, and I say we because after the book was released, one of our favorite listeners, Bolalang, he said, Andy, we need to have some sort of action or thing that one can do. So then he said, let's create a hashtag. So on our show one day, he writes the hashtag, and it's fucking great. So,
Uh-huh.
so then
I
from
re-
that from that moment, it gets turned into a group now on Facebook, which is hashtag and it's fucking great. But the reason why I bring it forward now is as you speak, is that the whole intention of that group is for people to let go of something where they've held judgment to themselves or to others with
Mhm.
without the need for anyone else to do anything about it. There's no,
That's powerful.
yeah. and
Very
and
powerful.
and I see it creates some confusion because when people go there, they often feel like these people are being so vulnerable. They're showing such deep, dark, difficult things that not supporting them is also not good. So they even judge the group as being like spiritually bypassing. They're not looking into behind. No one's helping anybody
I
here.
know we're not allowed to give advice, but I'm going to give advice.
Yes. So it's a very interesting thing because when one lets themselves let go of something, I also see that the healer feels helpless if they're not able to act on that need.
It isn't that interesting because it's just actually it's kind of the need of fixing things.
Yeah.
We need to fix something. It
Yeah.
has to look one way or the other instead of okay, just letting whatever needs to go
Yeah.
Yeah.
and receiving. It's just that deep sense of receiving or being aware actually, because
Yeah.
this is path to awakening, being aware
Yeah.
of that divine essence that we all have.
Yeah.
We
We
are
called it, someone called
human.
it quiet empathy. That was the phrase that was created, was when people aren't responding, it doesn't mean that they're not touched and they don't feel connected. They don't need to say, good job. Hope you're doing good.
Exactly. Keep it up. That kind of thing.
Keep it up.
So in a sense, it's about deep listening and
Yeah.
And
allowing the
allowing.
other person, exactly, allowing the other person
Mm.
to have their own experience
Yeah.
without comparison, without a pat on the back. You can
Mm.
do it. It's going to be, why do you think that? No, 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 no.
Mm.
So people, it's just so difficult for them just
Yeah.
to open the space, open a space to love, allowing. It's very uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's just, I have a group that I've been doing since the pandemic started, and this is for Latin America speakers around the world. The name is Refugio para el Alma, and it's Refuge for the Soul. So I give opportunities to people. I talk about different things that are important or emotional, and then I open the space to do live coaching or just
Yeah.
support and counseling. And sometimes it's just about being,
Yeah.
not doing. And I have to tell people, please don't say anything. This is just allow them to have their own space
Yeah.
just by being witness
Yeah.
to the presence. So that's extremely, extremely important.
Yeah. Not
Extremely
easy for
important.
some. By the way, we have a listener out there named Ronnie Paputri.
His wife.
And
Uh-huh.
why she's written this, I have to admit, I have no idea why.
It was in the beginning.
No, but I mean, why? Like, this has never come up in any of our discussions, so I'm also a bit self-conscious
Well, there's
because.
a winky face, so I think she's trying to test you.
Oh, okay, good. So she says, "What if someone asks you for your forgiveness? I figured it's not nice to say I don't live in the world of forgiveness. It's not my problem that you can't live with your own past actions or behaviors."
Yeah, when you're in different paradigms, right?
Yeah, when you're in different paradigms.
Okay, so exactly. If what is the question actually? What about if I say that?
I
If
think she's just
I
trying to
don't
be
want to.
cheeky, and she's just saying, "Well, Andy, if you live in this paradigm, then what if I ask you for your forgiveness? Then I would say, baby, I forgive you. You're forgiven, and I always love you because I don't need to prove anything from the other paradigm."
I live in
Exactly.
this one, so it's much better.
Yeah, come over to this one. This
I'm
one's far better.
enlightened.
You can say, I never judge you.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
true.
not, I never judge you. So I never judge you. So
And
I
it's
didn't like
true.
what you,
It's true. And
so
you know
I
what?
never
And
judge you.
my experience with him, okay, if he does judge, he'll be also owning it fully.
Yeah,
It's
Okay,
him.
exactly. So the thing is that the fact that maybe something wasn't according to your own expectations is because you were judging or having something according to how things should be or shouldn't be.
exactly.
So by having clear agreements on, okay, this works, that doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, it's my own responsibility to take a different decision. So
Yeah.
if someone says, forgive me, and you don't want to forgive, it's because either you don't live in that paradigm or you say, I never judge you.
Yeah,
So there's nothing to
I,
forgive.
I often hear myself say that, and I was trying to remember when I said it more recently, but I've said to someone, "There's nothing to forgive," like as if you know you don't need to ask because there's nothing to forgive. It's fine. Yeah, there was that level of just yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And you don't need to understand that, but you
yeah,
can say, okay, yes, this didn't work for me.
yeah,
Was not in my best interest.
yeah.
So we are going to make different decisions or different agreements or different things and you're going to choose to do or say something differently. But kind of, I'm okay. And you're forgiven if you need that forgiveness.
So
Or
how long have you known Carmen Banda?
oh, she comes to my to some of my workshops, and
That's
thank you,
beautiful.
Carmen.
Carmen says, "I love Clara. Her voice brings so much love and peace." Isn't
Yeah.
that sweet?
I think that's why I was closing my eyes, because you also have this, I can feel the love which carries your words as you speak.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bamboo. That's my intention. That's my
Yeah.
intention. It's
Mm.
just to be carried and used by love. In a
Yeah.
sense, it's leading with love. Mhm.
And you know, and then we have your brother Sebastian Naum on. Yeah.
Oh, Sebastian. Oh, that's my son.
That's great. He's a good-looking Argentinian. That guy is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, he is.
Women are
Yes,
gonna
he
have a
is.
trouble keeping arms off of him. You
Yeah,
know,
he's my son.
that's
And
beautiful.
yes, yes.
I was thinking, and now I'm distracted by your son. Not that there's any um
I'm distracted too because I didn't know he was going to be present.
He says, "What can I say? Look at my mom."
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's proud,
we already told
a
her in the
proud
beginning we're in
son.
love with her.
Yeah. You know, when you were talking about vibration, I'm often laughing because when I go into a coaching or working with someone, I'm often saying we need to spend time together so you can feel like what it feels like when you're in this zone. So
Mhm.
I can teach you or try to teach you, but to be honest with you, just us spending time and you sensing what feels better for you or less good in terms of where you want to evolve or do, you'll learn more over time just from feeling that I call it, I don't want to use the word energy as energy, but that feeling. It's a feeling which one could call energy, and
Mhm.
that'll serve you over time, but you won't know what you learned. You'll just start doing it. It just becomes
Exact-
natural.
Exactly. And in
Yeah.
a sense, Andy, you start being that.
Yeah.
And when you are not that, you feel it. And it's
Mm.
not comfortable.
Yeah.
So it's just a process of acknowledging that something is disturbing you without judging it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are judging the judgment.
Yeah.
And that creates shame and you feel drained.
Yep.
Just observe yourselves. It's just we all go through things. We all go through stuff. And sometimes it's just we're so focused on whatever is happening to us that we don't see the opportunity. By being able just to remove ourselves from that
Yeah.
and acknowledging and experiencing that we are human beings living human experience,
Yeah.
forgiving the judgments that we're having because of our humanness.
Yeah.
It's just we are being humans. So in that place is embracing the loving essence, who we really, really are. And that's, you can call it energy, you can call it vibration, but you're going to feel it. Like you said, you're going to feel it, experiencing it. Once you experience that, you have that in your heart. No one can tell you differently because it's your own experience. It's an experience of the heart, an evolution of the heart, path to awakening.
And we've done shows, and we discussed it. One of the shows that I really wanted to spend time on is trust your experience, and what life feels like when you live from trusting your experience. And sometimes people ask me, what books am I reading? And I'll say, actually, sometimes I just don't like to read because they're distractions, because I'm listening to another person's thoughts and trying to work things out. And it is their experience, which is always nice. But I'd often fall back on what's my experience in terms of, if I meet you and I don't feel it's right, then there's something I need to figure out what's going on that I don't see yet. The book might say there's 5 things you can ask this person, but that takes me away from my experience. So
I
that's
totally understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's not going to be good for the books, really, Andy.
Nor my book.
Not your book. Yeah, that's a different thing, right? But in a sense, it's just if we take other people's experiences as a mirror, and maybe there's something in there, not the whole book or not the whole lecture, but there's something in there that is going to awaken something inside of me. That's the experience. So the book becomes the tool.
Yeah.
And the tool opens the door to the experience, to that vast universe that we all have inside of us.
Yeah. But
So
that
that's
trusting that experience, I see, is so hard. Like, there's a show that I think I mentioned to Bambos that I want to do. It's an hour-long show where I want to break down the words "I believe" and say why you have to take it out of your vocabulary, or "I think," you know? And
I thought you were going to talk about the guru one.
well, that's another one we'll do independently. But the reason why I state that is because what I've seen is that when we hedge on things that we feel to be true, we don't get to learn the lesson by testing it. So we can say, I think, or I feel, or it might be, and all of a sudden we live in a gray zone, which doesn't move us to learn and grow. And there's some safety in it, which is what I've seen, at least in development work. So,
absolutely, yes, yes, exactly. And actually, is we don't need to believe everything we think.
That's the point, right?
That's the point, and it's a liberation, because then we can have thoughts, and then it's just we just have thoughts.
Yeah.
And then we check them, but we don't need to believe that. So if we learn the process, it's going to be easier for our ego to trust ourselves and the experience.
Beautiful.
And just keep moving.
Yeah, I didn't.
Upward.
That's the compliment that I did neglected to add, is that I take out I think and I believe, and I make statements which I already know are limited and they might change any moment. So I'm never stuck in the idea that it's true. I just make the statement so I can learn from it, you know?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Sorry.
Yes.
I want to go back a little bit. When you guys talked about your groups and how people sometimes want to comment and support someone, an individual.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit two-sided on that, because I used to feel a judgment, like in my mind was like, oh, let this person be. We don't have to solve everyone. And at some point it shifted for me, as in, if someone really feels the need to be there and the other person receives it, then who am I to impose how it should be?
Can you be
Oh,
more specific? Because I'm
Oh,
not
so
exactly
if
understanding.
someone if someone makes a thing like, oh, I just came to have had the breakup and I'm crumbling and it's fucking great,
Okay.
and then someone who is a healer,
Yeah.
it's their innate
Need.
need.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say need. It's there in life to support others. It's what brings them joy.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're not coming from a place, I feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
so I need to solve you, but really I feel so much compassion and love that to not be there for you,
Mm-hmm. Is impossible for
it's
me.
impossible for
Yeah.
me. It feels like it feels like a disturbance. Like, I see you suffering and I can support you there. So
okay.
to what degree do we say, hey, listen, we're not here to solve anything, and to what degree can we give that action a space to also be there?
So if I
It's just
summarize, the balance between when do I allow you to have your experience and where do I see I can add some support to your experience? Is
Bam.
that okay?
yes,
Thank
that's
thank
a
you.
great question. Great
It
question.
is a
It's
great
just a
question.
great
I I,
question,
I
and
just
it's
I just needed to summarize.
no, but it's beautiful, beautiful the context you gave, Bambus, because that has happened so many times in groups that I've been leading and I've been participating too. And
Yeah.
that's the lesson also for the one, and I have been on that side too, both sides, right? So the lesson for the one who I want to give you my love and just experience and just compassion, so you know that you are not alone on this, right?
Yeah.
If we set the space first, it's different thing if you are with someone who's sharing someone privately with you, one thing. So you are there to contain, to listen to that person, not to fix that person. Most people try to fix, and
Yeah.
they see fixing in the compassion and the love, and I'm here to bring joy to you. That person needs to go to whatever he needs or she needs to go through in order
Mm.
to be able to awaken to love. And it's just our place is to open the space and the container. That's privately. Let's go to the group. If we are in a group, and I have experienced this in several groups, and one, I'm leading a workshop on forgiveness and health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On how that represents whatever we have stuck inside comes into our bodies and our life experience. People want it, or they were projecting their own things into the other person experience. So
Yeah.
when someone was saying or just getting everything out, talking about their experience and crying, is very uncomfortable for other people just
Yeah.
to be there, to experience the pain and just being a safe container.
Let
That
it be.
person, let it be. So those are the rules at the beginning. So people know that they're safe, they can express themselves. And if someone tells them, oh, don't worry, my husband did the same to me, my brother happened to be that way, my neighbor went through the same thing you're going through, you are not letting the other person be. And you are just
Yeah.
cutting short the experience of oh, releasing and having the possibility of seeing differently, of having that spiritual experience of open themselves
Mhm.
Yeah.
to compassion, to awakening, to love. So that's the experience of the person who's being vulnerable and sharing, and the other person who wants to give to the other person is their experience that, okay, my place here is just to be and offer love from
Mm.
here. When I'm the one leading the group, so I let the other person have their own experience, and then I process when the time is right, go through the process, so I support them so they
Yeah.
can go deeper and higher. It's a different experience than fixing.
Yeah, I like that you made the distinction in the word that often is used as container. So, and I think that's great because when I heard it, I was like, oh, in our group, the hashtag and it's fucking great group, basically our container is you're here not to be healed. That is our container. We've stated it outright.
Exactly.
And yet people still will have struggle with it just because it's so hard when people say things. But in the groups where there isn't a clear container, clearly this stuff can bleed into when I did the last letter session, right? I really surrendered to letting, I said, we're not here to heal anyone, right? But when people were sort of breaking the rules, I sometimes let it evolve, right? I just because I said I'm not a facilitator here. I'm also sharing, I'm writing my own letters. I'm emotional. I don't want to be always telling with a stick, nope, stop that. So, but I remember like on one occasion, one person was just going way too far. Like, you know, someone wrote a letter to their wife that they were going to divorce half an hour later. And they said, this is my letter to my wife. And I'm going to divorce her. And then they read the letter and everyone's jaw is sort of on the ground, like, okay. And now you can imagine the group starts, do you really want to give her that letter? Do you really want to get divorced? So all of a sudden it became an intervention on this man's life. And I said, guys, slow. But what I meant to say is it's many times, most times for me, the groups could self-regulate. There was enough feminine energy that they would actually be able to bring it back to a sitting with the discomfort. But on a few occasions, it didn't work.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work. And one of the things that one of the most powerful experiences I had when I was working 8 days in the desert, 14 hours a day, and processing people and doing my own inner work prior to graduation, is just and it was set up this way, we would work doing counseling. And we work in trios. One person had to sit hour and a half in front of the other two people. One was the patient per se, or the client of a coach. The other one was the counselor or the coach. The other person was the neutral observant. He couldn't, or she couldn't, open his or her mouth, fix anything, give advice, nothing, just be.
Yeah,
People
silent
had
observer.
to be, yes, exactly. And that helps everyone just to be.
Yeah.
Just be. Because we are so fast. We don't listen to others because we are using that beautiful skill of deep listening. We listen to respond most of the time or react. So in a sense, it's just that deep listening that allows the space and the vibration. So anything that needs to come to the surface comes to the surface.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to be a witness, because sometimes your attention will go to the speaker. So I've done this myself, and I had to go like on the other side of the room to really watch them and not really be listening to what they're saying, but zoom out and just observe the space and them in it. That's it.
That's beautiful, because in that sense, you're also learning that when something happens, it's just to change your perspective and really seeing the pain, the suffering, our humanness, and being able to detach from that. So from that space, we can see things more clear, or from a different perspective, or giving us the opportunity to really release the judgments.
Yeah.
Because when we're able to release judgments, we get to experience our divinity and that peace inside of us.
Speaking of judgment, I'd like to bring on a comment from Bolalang. And Bolalang is in South Africa. He's our favorite. Actually, he's the third interviewer. He usually has 100 questions, and we only get through half of them on a show.
I think today he was just being.
Yeah, he was just being with us. And it says, I'm the type that enjoys people telling me how they think I can solve my issues. And I know him this way. This is him. In fact, I call him sometimes just to tell him what I think he's doing wrong on Facebook. I said, Bolalang, why are you provoking these people? And then he laughingly says, I know what I'm doing. And he feels seen in me telling him what I believe that I see in him, right?
That's interesting. Okay, Bolalang, thank you for being here. And that's a total different story. If you like people telling you how you can solve your issue, you're asking for their mentorship or their advice. My question is, do you sit with that? Do you ponder the options and then consciously take what your heart tells you to do or say or be? That's great.
Yep.
If you feel that you have to go in one direction, another direction, different kind of things, because whatever people are telling you, I would encourage you just to sit with all the information, like reading books, listening to different people, get inspired, see what your heart tells you. And you're going to feel that energy, that vibration. And then you're going to know this is the best option at this moment for me. Mm-hmm.
And you're going to laugh. So when I call him with what you just said, checking in with him is what's his vibration, then he always comes from a place that he, as far as I can see, right, because there'll be things I miss, is very conscious. He's doing what he's doing consciously. So, and usually what he's doing is he's provoking people that are following Christianity in his area because they're so devout that they actually judge others who don't practice it the way that he does, and he sees it as very destructive.
Okay,
So,
that's very interesting. So we have several things here, because if Balalang is provoking people
okay.
because he's judging their devotion,
Yes.
what is that reflecting back to Balalang? It's just kind of, am I being triggered because of their devotion? Am I being triggered by the way they expressed their religion, whatever that is, unless this is bringing unrest or violence? Different stories, so I can bring peace.
So he's just in his defense, because he's not here and we didn't bring him on. He actually is seen at bringing violence and disturbance, and therefore he's doing it from a place of trying to help raise consciousness that there's destruction in this. So that's the intent. If I can speak on his behalf.
Okay,
yes.
okay. And Balalang says here, so if we see that, we cannot fight war with violence. We cannot fight injustice with more injustice. And that's a challenge. Yeah. How can we be the change that we want to see in the world, like Gandhi said?
Yeah.
Can we be the peace in the middle of chaos without bringing chaos? Can we be pacifist activists, but doing things that are going to bring awareness and clarity? Can we stop racism without being a racist? So in a sense, by being what we want to see in the world, what the changes we want to experience, and it's not easy, very challenging. Can we be that? Can we embrace that and actually taking action? And that's the most difficult part. It's not just being the neutral observer there, but how can we bring peace and change to the world in a peaceful way? So that's beautiful.
We've gone over time, but I've got a very important question, and it came because I looked at your son's question, Sebastian, and he says, when we release judgments, we get to experience our divinity. And beautiful. That's a quote taken by you. Now I want to know, where do you judge Sebastian at this moment?
It's just, that's the most beautiful experience that I have had. Being a mom, it's just, I'm so grateful because the connection we have, the man he is, and the things that he is doing to bring consciousness through business to the world. So that's a beautiful experience. I don't have judgments with him.
Okay, but the women or the men he's dating, no issue with them?
It's his own experience. And
I can't get anything out of her, Vamos. I can't get anything out of her.
his own experience. And it's just, he's not in a relationship right now. And he was in a relationship. And it was his experience.
Beautiful.
His experience. And it's
He's
just,
so good looking. He looks photoshopped.
Yeah, he's too perfect. We don't believe it. Sebastian, we don't believe you're real. We think you're a made-up thing that a friend of
They chiseled you up.
yes, Clara
Yes.
is having fake posts made just so she looks better. From this is my son. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just my
Uh.
only one.
Oh
My
yeah.
only one, and I'm very connected and proud of him. And it's just when he asks me for things, advice, or if he shares things, we talk about what is something that is bothering him or not,
Oh
and just
yeah.
talking from different levels. And but I don't give advice if he doesn't ask me,
Oh,
and
nice.
Is that
I
easy
don't
for
judge
you?
him. Not sometimes, absolutely not. Sometimes it's just I want to say something, and I just take a step back. I always wanted him to be free, a free
Yeah.
soul. So he has his own experience.
Beautiful.
Sebastian,
And
is that
just,
how you experience your mama?
Yeah.
okay.
One of the things I loved about my mom was that when when we got to an age where it was time for us to go to school or college, she really, although we were her life, she said, I really want you to have your experience. Now it was like, I'm not going to hold on to you. I don't want you to go to school next to our house so you can live in the house and I can keep more and more time with you. It was really like, you get to have your life experience. And I found it really beautiful. And what I also found beautiful is that she also needed her own experience. So she got the marriage annulled to my dad so that she could become a nun, because she needed
Oh, okay.
she needed the caretaking that she didn't get anymore when me and my two brothers were gone. And I always thought it was just wonderful that she let us have our lives, but that didn't mean that she also didn't take what was important for her in her life.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful, and that thank you for sharing that, Auntie. And something, when my son went to college, he had the opportunity to go to UC Irvine because
Yeah.
we live 5 minutes from UC Irvine, and a part of me wanted him to go there, but he wanted to go to Santa Barbara. So he went to Santa Barbara. That picture there, that painting there,
He
and
had a
he
much better time in Santa Barbara,
absolutely,
I
in Santa
guarantee
Barbara,
you.
absolutely. And he said, Mom, it's just his academics, good school, and lots of fun.
Yes.
So he went to Santa Barbara, and to Santa Barbara, I went to visit, bringing my Argentinian empanadas to when I visited him. But it's just, I wanted him to have his experience. And one of the
Yes.
things he always told me is just, Mom, you have given me so much love, and you love to give love to the world. So it's just do it. It's also time for you to give your gifts to the world. So he supports me on what I'm doing. So it's just, I'm very grateful for that
That's
relationship.
beautiful. Well, we've gone well over our hour, so
We love you,
we
and
love you.
we're gonna have to figure out another reason for you to come on.
Yeah, we'll have
It's
another
just,
show.
we can have lots of reasons.
Yeah, we'll make up a
We can talk
reason.
about vulnerability, compassion, anything actually
Yeah.
about life. It's been beautiful. I really enjoyed this time with you both.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
thank you. It was
just,
really, really a special time. Thank you.
thank
And we
you.
send you a
Thank you
hug.
very much.
And we send goodbye to Sebastian as well, who's now.
Bye bye.
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 I was in the park today.
Yeah.
This is off topic.
Yes.
And I saw a beautiful woman. I
Yeah.
approached her
Uh-huh.
and I was talking with her.
Okay.
She had a boyfriend, but then she said, I know who you are. And I'm like, have I approached you before? That means you're still my type. And she says, no. I am the ex-girlfriend of a friend, and I see him posting pictures of you guys. So I knew her ex-boyfriend. I just didn't know they used to be together. I'm like, we're not doing this.
But did she know from our show, or did she know just from photos?
From Instagram, because
okay.
I sometimes hang out with him,
okay.
and he posts things with us.
Oh, hysterical. So you
I was
knew
like,
him through that.
I was like,
Oh.
I need to tell him that we have the same type.
Oh, I think that's funny.
Yeah, me too.
Wow, that was
So
really beautiful. It feels like we had a bit of a roller coaster ride. There were a lot of emotions that came up through that whole journey. Yeah.
she's very sensual,
Yeah.
very, and as she's speaking, whew, I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah. There were a lot of things that came up as we were talking. You know, it's interesting because I may, and I have, and I do repeat a story over and over again because I don't have better stories, and they're just the ones that make most sense in the context.
And they're also connected to your books.
Yes, right side bambos, upside down, and but what I have to say is when I live the stories with people, I then experience the stories different, or I experience them deeper, or I have a kind of another additional awareness. And I had a lot of the feeling when I was with Clara as we were discussing even the "And It's Fucking Great" group. I've always seen it and felt like there was the release and I understood it, but listening to her take on it, the angle of bringing forgiveness in, it dawned on me that a lot of that sharing in the group is often forgiving myself for even having these feelings to begin with. There's a release of that.
Yeah, I was thinking there's an important podcast in a way to be posted on that group, because if they want to be part of it, watching this show would give them a deeper understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. So that was another day for us.
And we're going to see you tomorrow, and we're going to do this again
and again and again,
and
this
so much more.
petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time on A Wonderful Chaos.